I frequently get asked what it was like to work for Martha Stewart, where I worked for almost 20 years. Here are the 7 most impactful lessons I learned while working for Martha Stewart. But before I share them, I want to share a little about my experience, which I fondly call Martha University. Working for her was like earning an MBA in personal and professional branding. When I was 25, I started as a marketing coordinator at the one-year-old magazine Martha Stewart Living. I left my job at Time Inc. corporate marketing for my dream job at a dream brand. The Martha Stewart Living brand stood for a discerning life that made my heart beat faster and allowed me to dream of it for myself. The sales and marketing department consisted of just a handful of people who sat in 3 offices and 4 cubicles on the 11th floor on 42nd Street in New York. It was my 3rd day on the job, and I was busy working on what we called the comp list of advertisers who would receive the magazine for free. I was doing my thing when I heard, "Who did this? This is awful. This isn't my brand. This is cheap. Who's responsible?" I'm not sure of the exact words, but I can still hear today that deep and louder than normal voice from someone who was clearly unhappy, frustrated, and wildly disappointed and wanted to let someone know about it. Martha. I'd only seen her picture in the magazine. The way she was speaking, I thought she must be talking to someone. But then I remembered everyone I worked with was out to lunch. I peeked my head out of the office where I was sitting. "Did you do this?" Martha questioned me, or more like growled. I sheepishly shared that it was my first week and I didn't know who was responsible. That didn't go over well. Martha was holding advertiser premiums that had been displayed on one of the cubicle desks. Premiums were gifts that we gave to advertisers. Martha explained what was wrong with clear and specific descriptions. She did this for each premium. She then explained that if I were going to work for her, I would need to learn what her brand stood for and represented and how to create and share it going forward. Yes, of course. She turned and stormed off. At least that's how I remember it. I shared the experience with my boss when she returned from lunch. As you might imagine, those advertiser gifts never saw the light of day again. About a week later, Martha's assistant called to tell me to meet one of the assistant editors at the Union Square Farmers Market the next day to buy pears for an upcoming photo shoot. I wasn't sure what it all meant. Farmers market? Cover shoot? Me with an editor? But my boss told me to go. I met Lisa at the farmers market, and for more than 2 hours we examined pears. Lisa shared that we were buying not just any pears. They had to be multicolored. Green, yes, but with a touch of red and a little brown. They had to be shiny, with a long stem, preferably with a leaf attached. Hours of pear searching through dirty crates. It was messy, but we foraged and found a few good ones. We had about 2 dozen pears before we made our way back to the office. The phone calls from Martha's assistant continued in the months ahead. I went shopping for felt to make felt Christmas stockings, one of my favorite Martha Stewart Living covers from December 1996. I spent half a day with the same editor selecting paper stock for the first Martha Stewart Weddings Media Kit. These experiences took me away from my real job, so there were plenty of late nights when I had to finish the work of my day job. I'm sure the time away annoyed my boss. I was enrolled in Martha University. I was a student for almost 20 years. Here are the 7 lessons I learned from Martha Stewart. Lesson number 1, always be learning. She told me to learn something new every day and teach it to someone else. This is what Martha University is all about. It was an education on how things were done at Martha Stewart Living. and Martha wanted us to learn and share it. She did everything you see in the magazines, her TV shows, and what's online: gardening, cooking, baking, decorating, sewing, and craft making. She was never afraid to get her hands dirty. In fact, she loved getting them dirty. Martha is a doer. When she learned something, she knew everything she could about it. She wanted to know every detail, background, and history. Her vast encyclopedic knowledge amazes me. Martha is a consummate student. She would study seed catalogs ahead of the seasons and learn the different species and where and when they would grow best. She knew the best scissors to use for cutting metals. There wasn't a recipe that she had not tried and retried, and she knew how to share where the recipe was tricky and what to watch out for. She learns every day and is a teacher of everything she has learned. This is at the heart of her success. Lesson number 2. Average is not acceptable. Exceptional is expected. Be it a pair, stocking, or an advertiser premium. A simple Google search for December covers is a case study in brand excellence. The resale market for the print issues is a testimony to the brand's continued brilliance. The next time you are creating something, ask yourself, what would exceptional look like? Lesson number 3. Your brand is how you make people feel. Martha wanted the people who worked for her outside of editorial to be as committed to understanding the brand so that they could share it with the buyers, to understand how to position and sell the Martha Stewart brand, not simply from the images in the magazine, but with hands-on knowledge, know-how, and delivery. We all took this seriously. We would bake cookies from the magazine and give them out as advertiser premiums. Instead of taking clients to lunch, we hosted Martha cookie decorating classes, pumpkin carving events, and egg dyeing days. I loved bringing the pages of the magazine to life. It felt right and left clients feeling the brand through experiencing it. I recently surveyed the readers of my Sunday Sunshine newsletter. You can subscribe to it at christinalangdon.com/subscribe. And the survey results said that readers want support with building their personal branding. Your personal brand is how you show up, behave, and make people feel, what people can expect from you, your habits, and what you are known for. Martha was very clear about her brand, what it represented, and how it was communicated. How do people talk about you when you leave the room? How would they describe working with you? How would they say you made them feel? Answers to these questions reflect your personal brand. Like most things, it can be reinforced, changed, or upgraded by being intentional, deliberate, and consistent. I was schooled in brand excellence, and I strive towards it daily. I look at my personal brand through the lens of what and where it needs polishing or improvement, and how I'm over-delivering, which Martha insisted upon. Lesson number 4. Surround yourself with people better than you. Martha hired the very best people, who hired the very best people, who hired the best people. The people I worked for and with at Martha Stewart Living Omni Media are the most accomplished, inspiring, and talented people I've worked with. I learned so much, and they made me better. The collective talent was an example of what a high-performing team looks like and what they can create with a vision and collaboration. When exceptional is your standard, you hire exceptional people. My time at the company was like living inside of a masterclass. Lesson number 5. Exceptional is in the details. I learned how to tie a bow working for Martha Stewart Living. At the time of this writing, Martha has published 100 books. Every time a new book was published, we would gift it to advertisers. We'd wrap it in brown craft paper and tie a beautiful organza or gross-grained bow around it. There was a Martha Stewart way of bow tying. It helped the bow lay flat on the gift. Presentation was everything, so we were expected to learn how to do it. This is just one example of the devil being in the details. The details matter, whether it's a gift, a presentation, or an event. Details matter. Details are important. Don't leave the details to chance if you want to leave an impression. Lesson number 6. Preparation is everything. I mentioned that Martha was a student. When she would attend client sales calls with me, we would send her a client brief that included what business they had run and what we were trying to sell to them during the sales call. Martha always came to the meetings having done her own research. She found out if she knew them or was connected with them, what charities were important to them, and what their hobbies were. If they loved gardening, she'd bring cuttings or seeds from her own garden. If they were on a board of a charity, she would make sure to share what she knew and how she'd contributed in the past, or ask to be invited to the next fundraiser. Lesson number 7. There is always a solution. I'm ending my lessons on an odd number. Here's why. When planning my wedding, Martha asked me what I would do for my centerpieces. I shared that I had a minimal budget. She advised me to plant white amaryllis bulbs in weathered boxes that I could get at the farmer's market and surround them with a ton of white votive candles. She said, make sure to have an odd number of candles for each table. Odd numbers are always more attractive. So I'm ending the lessons I've learned on an odd number. So the final lesson is, there's always a solution. We were filming a segment of the Martha Stewart show with the Honey Baked Ham brand right before Thanksgiving. They bought an advertising integration, meaning that we would feature their product in a segment in exchange for buying media. We set up a Thanksgiving table for the segment with a turkey and a honey-baked ham. Martha was to mention the honey-baked ham glaze. Martha went off the agreed script. Instead of recognizing the brand's honey-baked glaze, she shared her own delicious homemade glaze recipe and left out the part the brand paid for. This landed like a ton of bricks for my client. When we cut to a commercial break, hell broke loose. The client jumped up from the second row in the studio audience and charged at Martha. This was the day I learned the studio security guards packed heat. It was a wild 30-second, is this really happening experience that had me jumping in as a physical buffer between the enraged client and Martha. I immediately thought I was getting fired. I learned that honesty and transparency are crucial in a crisis, and that you can find a solution to any mistake. Martha quickly asked what she needed to do, an attribute for which she didn't get enough credit. Asking what was most important to them and their business was the beginning of discovering solutions that would be material and ease the burn of what they perceived was not just a failed TV integration, but a crisis for their business. On the other side, we had a deeper, stronger relationship with the client and the brand. The show aired live in the East Coast, but we could edit it out for the West Coast feed if we got to it quickly. Martha also agreed to tape a custom segment for their national conference that could appear on in-store TVs. There were several more things that we quickly took action to make amends. I learned from the talent I was surrounded with to always ask, what can we do, and what's needed to make this right, be it a mistake, a misstep, or a crisis. I am who I am today because of Martha University. I'm grateful. I was in the right place at the right time. Here's a quick recap of the 7 lessons I learned from Martha Stewart. Number 1, always be learning. Number 2, average is not acceptable. Number 3, your brand is how you make people feel. Number 4, surround yourself with people better than you. Number 5, exceptional is in the details. Number 6, preparation is everything. Number 7, there's always a solution. There's a reason why the Martha Stewart brand is still relevant today. Even at 84, at the time of this recording, Martha shows us what exceptional looks like and stands for.